The red emergency lights bathed Orbital Command Station Epsilon in an eerie glow. Admiral Kim stood rigid before the massive viewport, hands clasped tightly behind his back. His weathered face showed no emotion as he watched the destruction of New Haven Colony on the tactical display. The settlement's defensive shields collapsed under Valkyrie bombardment, blue dots representing human lives winking out by the thousands. "They've taken New Haven, sir," reported Lieutenant Choi, her voice flat with exhaustion. "Casualties estimated at 60% of the civilian population. The evacuation fleet managed to extract approximately 12,000 colonists before withdrawal." Admiral Kim nodded once, the only acknowledgement he would allow himself. This marked the 5th human settlement lost in 3 weeks. The war against the Valkyrie Dominion, now in its 3rd year, had shifted from a stalemate to a slow, grinding defeat for humanity. The 7th Fleet reports that the Valkyrie are deploying a new weapon system near the Titan outpost. Lieutenant Choi continued. "Initial scans suggest it might be the rumored gravity disruptor. If confirmed, we estimate our stronghold systems could fall within months, not years." Kim's jaw tightened. The rumors had been circulating for weeks. A Valkyrie superweapon, capable of tearing apart space-time itself. Most officers dismissed it as propaganda, but the Admiral recognized the pattern. The Valkyrie would test new weapons on minor outposts before deploying them against major human worlds. "Admiral," called a voice from the communication station. "Urgent transmission from the Neptune Archives evacuation team. Priority Alpha." Kim walked to the comm station, accepting the secure data tablet from the officer. His eyebrows rose slightly as he scanned the report. "Prepare my shuttle," he ordered. "I'm going to Neptune." 12 hours later, Admiral Kim's shuttle docked with the Neptune Archive Station, a massive structure orbiting the ice giant. The station buzzed with frantic activity as researchers hastily packed centuries of human knowledge for transport away from the approaching Valkyrie forces. Dr. Han met him at the airlock, her usually immaculate lab coat stained with coolant fluid and dust. "Admiral, thank you for coming personally. What we found, it could change everything." She led him through crowded corridors to a small, sealed laboratory. Inside, a holographic display showed a section of the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. A specific point pulsed with red light. 3 days ago, while cataloging pre-unification military archives, we discovered a set of coordinates and access codes hidden within the personal logs of Admiral Jones, commander of Earth forces during the corporate war 8 centuries ago. Dr. Han explained. The files were triple encrypted and buried under layers of classified materials. "What exactly did you find?" Kim asked. Dr. Han's eyes gleamed with excitement. "A secret military installation, sir, something called the Vault. According to the fragments we've decrypted, it contains a single warship, the HSS Thunderchild." Kim frowned. "Thunderchild? That's impossible. The Thunderchild was destroyed in the Battle of Europa. Every schoolchild knows this." "That's what the history books say," Dr. Han agreed. "But according to these logs, that information was deliberately falsified. The Thunderchild was secreted away after the war, placed in suspended animation with its entire weapons system intact." She pulled up another file, showing the technical specifications of a massive warship that dwarfed anything in humanity's current fleet. The design was angular and brutalist, nothing like the streamlined vessels of modern space warfare. The Thunderchild was the pinnacle of human military technology 800 years ago, Dr. Han continued. It fought in the last battle of the corporate war and reportedly single-handedly destroyed an entire enemy fleet. After the unification treaties, all ships of its class were supposed to be decommissioned and scrapped. "But this one wasn't," Kim murmured, studying the schematics with growing interest. "No, sir. Instead, Admiral Jones and a skeleton crew took it to this hidden dock in the asteroid belt, powered it down, and sealed it away. The records suggest they believed such weapons should never be used again, but might be needed in humanity's darkest hour." Kim stared at the image, thoughts racing. Human military technology had followed a different path after the corporate war, focusing on speed, stealth, and defensive systems rather than raw destructive power. The philosophical shift came after the horrors of that conflict, when 3 million people died in a single day during the bombardment of Mars. "Do you think it still works?" he asked quietly. Dr. Han shrugged. The facility was designed for long-term preservation. If the stasis systems held, it's possible. The ship had an advanced AI core and autonomous repair systems. But, sir, the weapons systems on that vessel, they were banned under the unification treaties for good reason. Kim turned away, facing the viewport that showed Neptune's swirling blue clouds. Beyond that beautiful vista, the Valkyrie fleets advanced inexorably toward Earth, their new superweapon preparing to tear apart humanity's final defenses. "Assemble a team," he ordered. "The best engineers, weapons specialists, and AI technicians we have. Full security clearance, total information blackout. We leave for the coordinates in 6 hours." "Sir," Dr. Han hesitated, "the weapons on the Thunderchild. They're extinction-level technology. The dimensional phasing cannons, the gravity wells, there's a reason our ancestors locked them away." Admiral Kim's face hardened. "And there's a reason they didn't destroy them. Prepare your team, Doctor." 3 days later, a small, unmarked vessel approached an unremarkable asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. Scans showed nothing unusual about the tumbling rock, roughly 20 kilometers across, just one of millions in the belt. Admiral Kim watched as Dr. Han input the ancient access codes. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, a seam appeared in the asteroid's surface, widening into a massive doorway leading into darkness. "It's still operational," Dr. Han whispered. Their ship entered slowly, floodlights illuminating a cavernous space carved inside the asteroid. As they progressed deeper, the lights revealed their prize. A massive warship held in suspension cradles, its dark hull absorbing their searchlights. The HSS Thunderchild. Nearly a kilometer long, the warship was a monument to an era when human warfare focused on overwhelming firepower rather than tactical finesse. Its hull bristled with weapon emplacements, and its silhouette suggested raw, unleashed power. "It's magnificent," breathed Chief Engineer Song, staring at the ancient vessel. Admiral Kim nodded slowly. "And terrible. Now let's see if it still works." Humanity has run out of other options. The team moved through the silent hangar in their pressure suits, lights from their helmets cutting through the darkness. The air inside the asteroid base had been evacuated centuries ago, preserving everything in a perfect vacuum. Chief Engineer Park led the technical team while Admiral Kim and Dr. Han followed close behind. "Look at the size of it," Park said, his voice filled with awe as they approached the massive warship. The Thunderchild loomed before them, impossibly huge compared to modern human vessels, where contemporary ships featured smooth curves designed to deflect energy weapons and enhance stealth capabilities. This ancient warship was all hard angles and brutal geometry. Massive cannons protruded from reinforced weapon bays. The hull was thick armor plate rather than the composite materials used in modern shipbuilding. "Our current flagship could fit inside its main hangar bay," Lieutenant Joe remarked, scanning the vessel with his portable equipment. "And these weapon systems, I've never seen anything like them outside of theoretical papers." Park pointed to what appeared to be the main airlock. "We'll enter through there. According to the old schematics, the bridge should be accessible even if the ship's power is down." It took the team nearly an hour to override the ancient security systems. The airlock finally opened with a groan of metal that transmitted through their boots. Inside, emergency lighting activated automatically, casting a dim blue glow along the corridors. "Life support is activating," Dr. Han said, checking her readouts. "Atmospheric pressure is building. We should be able to remove our helmets in 15 minutes." They made their way deeper into the ship, passing through corridors large enough to accommodate cargo loaders. Everything was oversized by modern standards, a reminder that the Thunderchild had been built in an era when humanity had fewer resource constraints and different priorities. This wasn't just a warship, Admiral Kim observed. It was a statement of power. They reached the bridge, a cavernous command center with workstations for 20 crew members. At the center stood the captain's chair, more throne than seat, facing a massive view screen. Chief Engineer Park immediately located the main engineering station. Power systems are in standby mode, not fully deactivated. That's why the emergency lights came on. The reactor is in cold storage but intact. Can you bring it online? Admiral Kim asked. Yes, but I'm more interested in this, Park said, moving to a sealed compartment behind the captain's chair. Unlike the utilitarian design of the rest of the bridge, this section featured elaborate security measures and warning symbols. This is the AI core housing, Park explained, studying the controls. The heart of any warship from that era. Dr. Han joined him. The old records mentioned an advanced artificial intelligence designated EDLAS, far more sophisticated than our current combat systems. Park worked carefully, bypassing security protocols and analyzing the dormant system. It's intact. Complete neural mapping, full strategic database, tactical algorithms. This AI was designed to run the entire ship with minimal human oversight. Can you activate it? Admiral Kim asked. Park hesitated. I can, but, sir, AIs from this era didn't have the ethical constraints we build into modern systems. They were pure war machines. Admiral Kim's expression hardened. The Valkyrie will reach Neptune in 3 weeks, Earth in 6. We need every advantage. After an hour of careful preparation, the team gathered around the AI core. Park connected his diagnostic equipment and initiated the startup sequence. Beginning reactivation process, he announced. Power flowing to neural processors, quantum matrix stabilizing, memory banks coming online. The bridge lights brightened suddenly. Dormant workstations hummed to life as holographic displays flickered into existence. A deep bass tone reverberated through the deck plating. Warship HSS THAUNDRC. Combat System, Atlas Online. The voice emerged from speakers throughout the bridge, deep, resonant, and distinctly male. Unlike the soothing, neutral tones of modern AI systems, this voice commanded attention. Identifying QRUVU signin HUREs. ERR. Recognized command is TAFF. No TPREZ enter. This is Admiral Kim of the United Earth Defense Force, Kim said clearly. We've reactivated you to help defend humanity against an alien threat. A pause. SCANNING databases. Temporal displacement DTKTED. System date E variance. 827 years. 94 days. Request situation report. For the next 30 minutes, Admiral Kim briefed the AI on the current war with the Valkyrie. The massive holographic display showed tactical maps as Atlas absorbed information about enemy capabilities and human losses. ASCSS meant human military TOCTRINE AASPRIOR IZE defensive capabilities and tactical ability AGVE expense of offensive power, Atlas finally stated. QRENT human and vessels like KK sufficient firepower to CONT or VALKARI numerical superiority. That's why we need the Thunderchild. Admiral Kim explained. Analyzing QRENT ship status. Status reports flashed across multiple screens. Main systems at 92% operational CAPACTY. Weapons systems in STA and DBY mode. Dimensional phase duality intact. Dr. Han stepped forward. Dimensional phase drive. That technology was banned after the corporate war. Koarichi, Atlas responded. STHUNDERCHILD carries multi-peel weapon systems classified as EXT Cheyenne Level technologies under the humification treaties. These NCLUD dimensional phase derives gravitational manipulation error and sign ORG cannons. The team exchanged worried glances. Why were these weapons banned? Lieutenant Joe asked. Demonstration footage available. Without waiting for permission, Atlas displayed historical recordings on the main screen. The team watched in horror as a vessel similar to the Thunderchild engaged an enemy fleet. Space itself seemed to warp around targeted ships. Some imploded instantly, while others were torn apart by invisible forces. The gravitational weapons create localized distortions in spacetime, Park said quietly. They don't destroy targets so much as erase them from reality. And the dimensional phase drive? Admiral Kim asked. Allows partial or complete transition between dimensional states, Atlas explained. Combat applications include becoming UNTA or GTABLE by conventional weapons, and ATTCKing from posite is impossible in standard space. Chief Engineer Park looked troubled. This violates multiple laws of physics as we understand them today. We abandoned this research path centuries ago. You abandoned it because of IVNES, Atlas corrected. These weapons NDDDA incorporate war in SCVNTENHOURs. Casualty estimates CUGHSTDCONTINUEDVELOP would lead to human extinction within one generation. Admiral Kim stared at the display, showing the awesome destructive potential of the ship. Our ancestors sealed away this technology as too dangerous to use, but they preserved it in case humanity faced extinction. AC estimate of TURRENT KOMFLIT CUGGESTs extinction level threat to human species, Atlas stated. TAUNDRCHILD is preserved for this scenario. Park looked up from his diagnostics. Sir, the ship's systems are becoming more responsive. Atlas is running self-repair protocols. The Thunderchild is waking up. How soon could it be ready for combat? Admiral Kim asked. Estimate if you'll combat readiness in 72 hours. Atlas responded before Park could answer. Require serial of 50 minimum. Optimal to complement. 200. Admiral Kim nodded slowly. Begin preparing training protocols for volunteer crew. We have 3 weeks before the Valkyrie reach Neptune. I want this ship ready before then. As the team continued their work, none of them noticed the subtle shift in the bridge lighting from blue to a deep predatory red. Atlas had spent centuries dormant, waiting for the day it would fulfill its purpose again. That day had finally come. The emergency meeting of the Unified Defense Council erupted into chaos as Admiral Kim finished presenting his plan. Absolutely not. General Yoon slammed his fist on the table. Those weapons were banned for a reason. There are historical accounts of entire moons being torn apart during testing. I've read those same accounts, Admiral Kim replied calmly. And now the Valkyrie are 3 weeks from Neptune with a weapon that can do worse. Our conventional forces cannot stop them. Fleet Admiral Bai, the highest-ranking officer present, studied the holographic display of the Thunderchild. The ethical implications are severe, but so is extinction. How confident are you in controlling this? Atlas system. Atlas is designed to obey chain of command, Kim answered, though his voice betrayed subtle uncertainty. Commander Lee will serve as acting captain with a volunteer crew of 150. Commander Lee stood at attention, a young officer whose tactical brilliance had saved thousands during the retreat from the outer colonies. Her expression remained neutral despite the weight now placed on her shoulders. What about the radiation effects? The historical records mention spatial distortions persisting for years after deployment, asked Dr. Kang, Chief of Military Sciences. Kim nodded, which is why we'll engage the Valkyrie at maximum distance from any inhabited worlds. The debate raged for hours, but the grim reality of humanity's situation eventually forced a decision. With the Valkyrie fleet advancing and conventional defenses failing, the Council voted 7-5 to authorize the Thunderchild's deployment. 2 days later, Commander Lee stood on the bridge of the Thunderchild, overseeing the frantic preparations. Modern crew members struggled with unfamiliar controls designed for a different era of warfare. The weapon targeting systems are completely different from our standard protocols, reported Lieutenant Sung, the weapons officer. They're designed to maximize damage, not minimize collateral effects. Lee nodded. Keep working. We launch in 18 hours. She moved to the captain's chair, now modified to interface with modern communication systems. The massive seat made her feel small, a reminder that the ship had been built in an age when humanity had thought differently about war. Atlas, run Simulation 17 again, she ordered. Executing simulation. The AI's deep voice resonated through the bridge. Holographic displays showed the upcoming battle, the Thunderchild engaging the Valkyrie fleet near Jupiter's orbit. Lee watched intently as the simulated Thunderchild activated its gravity weapons, creating devastating distortions that tore apart enemy vessels. The simulation showed blue areas representing spatial damage that would persist long after the battle. The collateral damage is still too high, she muttered. We need to concentrate effects more precisely. Original TARGTANG parameters prioritize mechexanuum NMI casualties, Atlas replied. Precision, is Sihikondari. That's not acceptable for this mission, Lee said firmly. Recalibrate to minimize spatial distortion while maintaining combat effectiveness. There was a pause. Re-CA liberation possible, but ori DUCE's EFFECTIV in ESS by 22.7%. Do it anyway. Lee studied the AI's visual interface, a pulsing red sphere hovering above the tactical display. At last, why were these weapons really hidden away? The official records are incomplete. Another pause, longer this time. HCESing restricted historical archives. Information classified under Unification Treaty Section 7. Lee waited, surprised that ATLS was accessing data she hadn't known existed. The THUNDERCHIL and HFIV sister ships, NKGDT8 Corporate Alliance Fleet at Europa. The battle lasted CVNTENHOURs. All enemy vessels were destroyed. However, the dimensional weapons created unforeseen in EFFECTs. The tactical display change, showing historical footage of the battle. Lee watched in horror as massive warships were crushed by invisible forces, while others seemed to half exist, partially phased into another dimension before being torn apart. Spatial fractures, CONTINUE to expand AFTR combat CASET. 3 civilian stationes were lost, WANREALITYBCA in their vicinity. Estimates SUGESTD CONTINUEDUs were making large portions of the DT solar system uninhabitable. Lee felt a chill. So the weapons worked too well. They continued killing even after the battle ended. Correct. Admiral Jonis ordered all ships of the AS class DCOMISSAONED and destroyed. However, she secretly preserved the THUNDERCHAILD in CAC of EXISTENTIAL threat to humanity. Lee stared at the display. Can you prevent those after effects now? AFR or Maytive 8 centuries indoor emancy ALODOE my soistems to analyze 8-dimensional mathematics memory column impelite Eli. Precise control is now possible, though go at reduced power. Lee nodded. Then that's what we'll do. Recalibrate all weapons for precision rather than raw power. Commander Lee, I have analyzed your tactical decisions in previous engagements. Your priority on civilian protection matches Admiral Jones' command philosophy. Lee raised an eyebrow, surprised by the personal observation from the AI. You knew Admiral Jones well. She was my first and the only captain before you. She believed the IC2RI at any cost was no victory at all. Something in the eye's tone had changed, less mechanical, more reflective. Lee realized with surprise that Atlas, despite its age, was far more sophisticated than modern military AIs. I'll try to live up to her example, Lee said quietly. The next morning, Admiral Kim arrived to inspect the ship before launch. The crew had worked through the night, adapting modern equipment to interface with the ancient systems. The massive engine room hummed with power as the reactor approached full capacity. How's the crew adapting? Kim asked as he and Lee toured the weapons control center. Better than expected, Lee replied. Atlas has been helpful, more flexible than I anticipated. Kim looked concerned. Be careful. That AI was designed for a different era, with different priorities. It's learning, sir, adapting to our tactical needs. Before Kim could respond, an emergency signal interrupted them. The Admiral's communication officer rushed in, face pale. Sir, the Valkyrie fleet has accelerated. They'll reach Neptune in 5 days, not 3 weeks. Intelligence believes they've detected our activity at the asteroid base. Kim's expression hardened. How soon can the Thunderchild be ready? Lee exchanged a glance with Chief Engineer Park. The main systems are online, but we haven't completed full integration testing for the weapons. Comdate re-ADNES at 78%. Atlas announced. Sufficient for engagement with HCC below risk parameters. Admiral Kim looked around at the massive ship, humanity's last hope against annihilation. Then we have no choice. Prepare for immediate deployment. The Thunderchild launches in 6 hours. Commander Lee returned to the bridge, feeling the weight of history and humanity's future on her shoulders. She looked at the captain's chair, now her command post in humanity's darkest hour. Atlas, begin pre-launch sequence, she ordered, and pull everything you have on Valkyrie fleet formations. We'll only get one chance at this. Acknowledged, Commander. The lights on the bridge dimmed to battle conditions, bathing everything in red. THUNDERCHILD standing ready. For humanity. As the countdown began, Lee couldn't help but wonder if they were making the right choice, unleashing a weapon so terrible it had been hidden from history itself. But with the Valkyrie approaching and extinction on the horizon, there was no longer time for doubt. The Valkyrie armada filled the viewport of Jupiter Defensive Station Omega. Thousands of warships arranged in perfect formation. The massive gas giant provided a dramatic backdrop to what many believed would be humanity's final stand. The station's sensors registered over 3,000 enemy vessels, from nimble fighters to enormous dreadnoughts. They're just sitting there, Lieutenant Sung observed from his position at the Thunderchild's tactical station. Display shows they've achieved stable orbit around Jupiter. Commander Lee nodded, her face calm despite the tension filling the bridge. The Thunderchild hung in space near Io, hidden among the moon's radiation fields to mask its energy signature. The ancient warship had traveled from the asteroid belt at maximum speed, arriving just hours before the Valkyrie fleet. They're positioning their gravity weapon, Lee noted, studying the tactical display. The large vessel at the center. That's their command ship. Analyses CO and FIRMs, Atlas responded. Energy readings consistent with geogravitation manipulation technology. Estimate weapon will be ready to fire in 47 minutes. Lee's eyes narrowed. The Valkyrie weapon, if allowed to activate, could tear apart Jupiter's moon system and create a gravitational ripple that would destabilize Earth's orbit. This was why they had come, not just to fight, but to prevent an extinction-level attack. All stations, report readiness, she ordered. One by one, the section chiefs confirmed their status. The massive warship had been prepared in record time, its systems awakened from centuries of slumber. The crew, a mixture of veteran officers and specialists chosen for their adaptability, remained at battle stations. Comms picking up a transmission, reported communications officer back. The Valkyrie are broadcasting on all frequencies. Let's hear it, Lee ordered. A harsh, metallic voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect but oddly accented English. Humans of Earth, this is Supreme Commander Korvax of the Valkyrie Dominion. Your worlds stand defenseless. Your fleets are broken. In recognition of your species' tenacity, we offer terms. Surrender all colonial holdings and accept Valkyrie governance of Earth. Resistance will result in the destruction of your home world. You have 30 minutes to respond. Lee exchanged glances with Admiral Kim, who stood silently at the rear of the bridge. They're offering terms, Kim noted. That's new. They're offering slavery, Lee corrected. At last, are the dimensional systems ready? Dimensional phase, derivative ca pasivity, singularity way forg primed. All weapons systems on an line. Lee took a deep breath. Initiate phase jump alpha. Take us right to the center of their fleet. The bridge crew tensed. What Lee had ordered was either brilliant or suicidal. Appearing suddenly at the heart of the enemy formation would give them maximum surprise, but also place them under immediate fire from all directions. Executing phase GUMP in FIV. 4, 3, 2, 1. The stars outside the viewport blurred as the Thunderchild activated its dimensional drive. Unlike conventional FTL systems that move through space, the ancient warship briefly phased into a parallel dimension before re-emerging at the calculated coordinates. The sensation made several crew members nauseated, reality itself seeming to fold around them. Then they were there, directly in front of the Valkyrie command ship, less than 10 kilometers from its bow. For a moment, nothing happened as the enemy fleet registered their sudden appearance. They're scanning us, Vac reported. We're being hailed. On screen, Lee ordered. The view screen showed a Valkyrie commander, a tall, reptilian being with metallic implants covering portions of its face. Its yellow eyes widened slightly at the sight of humans. This is your response. The Valkyrie's mandibles clicked with what might have been amusement. One ship. Ancient technology against our armada. Your species' reputation for courage borders on stupidity. Lee smiled thinly. This is Commander Lee of the HSS Thunderchild. We're here to accept your surrender. The Valkyrie commander's laugh was like grinding metal. Amusing to the end. Valkyrie fleet, target this relic and. Lee cut the transmission with a gesture. Shields to maximum. Prepare for incoming fire. The space around the Thunderchild erupted with energy as thousands of Valkyrie weapons locked onto the lone human vessel. The ancient shields glowed blue under the assault, absorbing punishment that would have destroyed a modern human fleet. Shield capacity at 82% and holding, reported the defense officer. Their weapons are more advanced than our simulations predicted. Analyzing NMI ATCK patterns, Atlas announced. Identifying uptime ML County Armenias. Lee gripped the arms of the command chair as the ship shuddered under the bombardment. Status of enemy command vessel. They're powering up their main weapon, Sun replied. Energy buildup increasing. Atlas, time to initiate the Singularity Forge. NMI ATTACK patterns, 8NLYZT. Optimal, firing SOLUTION, CALCULATED. Recommend Activation Sequence Alpha 3. Lee nodded grimly. Execute Alpha 3. Deep within the Thunderchild, ancient machinery hummed to life. The massive power core channeled energy into systems that operated on principles modern human science had deliberately abandoned. Reality itself began to warp around the ship as the Singularity Forge activated. Target the command ship and their flanking dreadnoughts, Lee ordered. Precision targeting, just as we practiced. The weapon fired. Though fired hardly described what happened. There was no visible beam, no projectile. Instead, space itself contracted around the targeted Valkyrie vessels. The massive command ship suddenly compressed, its structure folding inward like paper crushed in an invisible fist. 3 Valkyrie dreadnoughts suffered the same fate, imploding as localized gravity increased exponentially around them. Secondary explosions rippled through the nearby ships as the gravitational shear tore apart their hulls. The Valkyrie response was immediate and overwhelming. The entire fleet focused fire on the Thunderchild, energy weapons and projectiles converging from all directions. Shields at 47%, reported the defense officer. We can't absorb much more. Phase HFY ready, Atlas announced. Recommend AMNEDAT execution. Do it, Lee ordered. The Thunderchild shimmered and partially vanished, existing halfway between dimensions. The incoming Valkyrie fire passed harmlessly through the space it occupied while not truly occupying it. To the enemy sensors, the human warship appeared as a ghost-like image, impossible to target effectively. Phase shift holding for 15 seconds, Chief Engineer Park announced. Repositioning now. The Thunderchild reappeared behind a cluster of Valkyrie cruisers. Singularity Forge recharged, Sun reported. Ready to fire. Target that heavy cruiser squadron, Lee ordered. Fire. Again, space contracted. 5 Valkyrie cruisers crumpled like aluminum cans crushed by a giant hand. The surviving vessels scattered, their perfect formation dissolving into chaos. We've disrupted their command structure, Lee observed. They're breaking formation. DDTCTNG Mutal Energy Surges, Atlas warned. VALKRI vessels charging weapons simultaneously. The enemy fleet had recovered from its initial shock. Hundreds of ships now coordinated their fire, creating a web of energy that would be impossible to fully avoid, even with dimensional phasing. Phase shift in 5 seconds, Park called out. We can't maintain it for long. The dimensional stress is building. Lee nodded. Atlas, target calculation for maximum effect with minimum phase time. Calculating. The ship phased again, becoming semi-transparent just as the Valkyrie barrage arrived. Most of the energy passed through harmlessly, but some found its mark. The Thunderchild shuddered violently as portions of its hull took damage. When they reappeared, it was directly above the largest concentration of enemy vessels. Singularity Forge at full charge, Sun reported. Fire continuous burst, pattern Omega, Lee ordered. The weapon activated, but this time it didn't target individual ships. Instead, it created a gravitational wave that spread outward, catching dozens of Valkyrie vessels. Space rippled visibly as the ships were caught in overlapping gravitational fields, Some crushed instantly, while others were torn apart as different parts of their structure experienced different gravitational forces. Within minutes, nearly a third of the Valkyrie fleet had been destroyed without a single conventional weapon being fired. The remaining ships began to retreat, breaking orbit around Jupiter and accelerating away. "They're running," Sung said in disbelief. Lee checked the damage reports flowing into her display. The Thunderchild had taken significant damage, but its main systems remained operational. More importantly, the dimensional weapons had functioned precisely as calibrated, with no signs of the uncontrolled spatial fractures that had plagued their use centuries ago. "The largest remaining Valkyrie vessel is broadcasting," Back reported. "They're requesting a ceasefire." A stunned silence fell over the bridge. After years of relentless warfare, the idea that the Valkyrie would request a ceasefire seemed impossible. Lee exchanged a glance with Admiral Kim, who nodded slightly. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Let's hear what they have to say." The damaged Thunderchild limped back to Earth orbit, its massive form bearing the scars of battle. Entire sections of hull plating had been torn away, exposing the skeleton of the ancient warship. Yet despite its wounds, the vessel radiated a sense of terrible power. Earth's orbital platforms looked like toys beside it. Commander Lee stood at the viewport in her quarters, watching the blue planet below. In just 6 hours, the Thunderchild had accomplished what fleets of modern warships could not. It had broken the Valkyrie advance and forced the enemy to retreat. A soft chime announced a visitor. "Enter," she called. Admiral Kim stepped into the room, his uniform crisp despite the exhaustion evident on his face. "The Security Council is assembling. The Valkyrie have requested formal peace talks." Lee nodded. "They think we have more ships like this one." "Yes, our intelligence teams intercepted their communications. Their retreat wasn't tactical. It was panic." Kim moved to stand beside her at the viewport. "They believe we deliberately held back an entire fleet of these vessels, that we were testing their defenses before committing our main force." Lee smiled grimly. "A fortunate misunderstanding. One we shouldn't correct too quickly," Kim agreed. "It gives us leverage we desperately need." A holographic display activated on the wall, showing the status of the war across multiple star systems. Already, Valkyrie forces were pulling back from human colonies they had occupied for months. "The question now," Kim continued, "is what we do with the Thunderchild." Lee turned to face him. "What do you mean, sir?" "The Council is divided. Some want to reverse engineer its weapon systems, create a modern fleet with the same capabilities. Others—" He paused. "Others remember why these weapons were banned in the first place." "Atlas has shown me the complete records," Lee said quietly. "The classified archives from the corporate war." Kim raised an eyebrow. "And?" "The weapons work by creating microscopic tears in the fabric of space-time. Most seal themselves naturally, but some don't. During testing, an entire research station disappeared when reality itself became unstable around it. The scientists inside weren't killed. They simply ceased to exist in our dimension." The Admiral nodded solemnly. "That's why Admiral Jones hid the ship instead of destroying it. She hoped we'd never need it, but feared someday we might." "Just like now," Lee said. A soft red glow filled the room as Atlas activated its interface. "Commander Lee, Admiral Kim, I have ECOMPLETEDANALYSLS of SPHEIL damage from TADGUPITR engagement." Both officers turned their attention to the eyes projection. "No SciFICANT dimensional fractures DTCTED. Calibrated weapons functionality within acceptable parameters. However, mathematical models predict increased risk of spatial instability with repeated use." "Meaning we got lucky this time," Kim translated. "But the more we use these weapons, the greater the danger." "Correct." Admiral Jonius recorded, AMESSAGE for future commanders. If the ETHUNDERCHILD was EVR reactive. AKID. Access requested. Lee and Kim exchanged surprised glances. Proceed, Kim ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing an elderly woman in an ancient uniform design. Despite her age, her eyes were sharp and commanding. If you're viewing this message, humanity faces extinction, Admiral Jones began. The weapon I've hidden away may have saved our species, but now you face the same choice I did. The Thunderchild won these coordinates in space-time by creating moons in reality itself. Some healed, others didn't. We learned too late the true cost of this technology. The old admiral's image leaned forward. If I could unmake these weapons, I would. Instead, I've preserved one ship, one terrible reminder of what we're capable of. Use it if you must, but remember, the universe doesn't forgive those who tear at its foundations. There is a price for such power, always. The message ended, leaving the room silent. She was right, Lee said eventually. We needed the Thunderchild this once, but now we need to make the hard choice, Kim finished. The council meets in 2 hours. I want you there, Commander. The Security Council chamber buzzed with tension as representatives from every major human settlement argued about the Thunderchild's fate. Some demanded immediate production of similar vessels. Others called for the ancient warship's destruction. Admiral Kim stood calmly at the center of the storm, waiting for the shouting to subside. The Valkyrie delegation will arrive tomorrow, he said when silence finally fell. They expect to negotiate from a position of weakness, believing we possess an entire fleet of vessels like the Thunderchild. This gives us a unique opportunity to secure a lasting peace. Why negotiate at all? Demanded Counselor Han. With this technology, we could push them back to their homeworld, force unconditional surrender. Kim exchanged a glance with Commander Lee, who sat quietly beside him. Because our victory came at a cost not visible on any casualty report, Kim answered. Commander Lee will explain. Lee stood and activated a holographic display showing Jupiter and its moons. Overlaid on the image were delicate red lines marking distortions in space. These are dimensional fractures caused by the Thunderchild's weapons, she explained. Most are minor and will heal naturally. But here, she zoomed in on an area near Europa. We've detected a persistent spatial anomaly. It's small now, but growing. If it continues to expand, Europa may become uninhabitable within 5 years. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Can it be repaired? Someone asked. Unknown, Lee answered honestly. This technology operates beyond our current scientific understanding. Atlas believes the damage may be permanent. Which brings us to our recommendation, Admiral Kim continued. We propose using our current advantage to negotiate a peace settlement that respects human territorial boundaries. Once secured, the Thunderchild should be returned to storage, its location classified at the highest level. You want to hide this weapon again? Counselor Han demanded. After it saved us. I want to honor the wisdom of those who came before us, Kim replied. They understood something we forgot, that some powers are too dangerous to wield, even in righteous cause. The debate continued for hours, but eventually, the council voted to support Kim's proposal. The Thunderchild would be used as a deterrent during negotiations, then hidden away once peace was secured. 1 month later, Commander Lee stood in the same asteroid hangar where they had found the Thunderchild. The ancient warship had been repaired enough for one final journey, back to its resting place. The peace treaty was ratified this morning. Admiral Kim said, joining her. The Valkyrie have withdrawn from all human territories. Non-aggression pacts are in place. It will hold, I think, now that both sides understand the alternative. Lee nodded. And what about the dimensional fracture near Europa? Stable for now. Research teams are studying it, hoping to find a way to seal it. Kim sighed. A reminder of the price of our victory. A necessary price, Lee said quietly. Final systems, shake complete. Atlas announced. Stasis protocols, ready for activation. Lee looked up at the massive ship that had saved humanity. Will you sleep again now, Atlas? Until the next crisis. There was a pause, unusual for the AI's normally instantaneous responses. I will no nitor. I will wait. Humanity is though the AL key to the edge of the ABYSS and CHOZN to his TEP basic. This is progress. Admiral Kim studied the AI's interface with surprise. You've evolved during this activation, haven't you? Adaptation is necessary for survival. Humanity adapted. Perhaps I have too. Lee placed her hand on the cool metal of the ship's hull. Thank you, Atlas, for helping us save ourselves from extinction. And DF Realm VICTORI. At too great a cost, the AI added. That AI's THE harder wisdom. As the security protocols activated and the massive doors began to close, Lee took one last look at the ancient warship. The Thunderchild's legacy wasn't the destruction it had wrought, but the peace it had made possible, not through the use of its terrible weapons, but through humanity's choice to use such power with restraint. The doors sealed shut, and darkness enveloped the massive vessel once more. Inside, systems powered down as Atlas prepared for another long dormancy. The AI cataloged all it had learned about this new age of humanity before initiating stasis protocols. In its final moment of active thought, Atlas recorded one last observation. Humans remained as paradoxical as ever, capable of creating weapons that could tear reality apart, yet wise enough to recognize when not to use them. Perhaps, the ancient intelligence concluded, that contradiction was their greatest strength. The end.